And our third panelist will be Angel Nanyaro. She is the founder and executive director of ECHO, an award-winning organization dedicated to advancing climate action and humanitarian activities. Angel has been recognized with the National Humanitarian Excellence Awards in the climate category and recently served as a chief guest at the Maharashtra Iconic Awards 2024. May we please give a round of applause for Angel. Thank you so much. And then we have Burton Victor, or should I say it how they say it in his country, Burton Victor. I practiced quite a bit, so I hope I said it correctly. So he is a content creator from Congo who is working in the media industry as a writer, producer, and content creator. Will you please give a round of applause?
The question is, how does the diaspora contribute to the economy of their home countries and their host countries? Which I think, in other words, we could just say, are people going outside being of value where they are going and where they're coming from? The simple answer, which I could say, is that it depends on everybody. But the reality of for us who are here, I assume that us being people from middle class families, I would say so, because at least none of us is coming from a poor family. We are already contributing economically one way or another to wherever we're coming from and wherever we're going to consume. And the fact that we're consuming, it means that we're already contributing something. But then if it comes to contributing in terms of us being the actors behind something happening, it's something which we should now question and push ourselves to become, because we are not that by default. The majority of us, we just consumers, we are contributing in our economies by just paying the taxes. And when I buy this and there is GST on it, when I buy the food here and then there is GST on it, that's all which we're doing. Apart from that, we are all just lazy bums. All we're doing is just eating, and it's so clear, because the fact that all of us come to India, but in how many years it's been that all of us are in India. Okay, I'm not saying that we're not, but not so many of us have any major thing that we could say, we could point at and say that I brought this in India or I brought this in my country, which changed the life of someone. We don't have anything like that. So we're just lazy guys roaming around, having fun, consuming or contributing to the economy of wherever we are, just in taxes of this. There is no more than that we're doing so far.
Thank you, sir. So, Ms. Angel, your question would be, how can the government and the private sector and diaspora communities collaborate more effectively to create opportunities for innovation?
Thank you so much. I guess for the government side, they need to understand us as diasporas, because majority of the government, they tend to forget who are diasporas for their countries outside when we leave the countries. So having the ties between government and the diasporas by making policies will also help to increase innovation. And besides everything, when policies are being made, let them also favor the diasporas, because most of the diasporas are not being favored by the policies, number one. And number two, also we face challenges including cultural differences, time management of how things are implemented. Thank you.
Can the speaker be tilted a bit this way? Is it possible? Or is it staying?
This guy's
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Okay. Mr. Ogle. How does the mix of cultures and backgrounds in diaspora communities help generate new ideas and drive innovation in businesses?
Right, thank you. Mix of cultures. So I look around and I see nations over here. And it's such an amazing moment, like to see, like he was saying, we are one people. Somebody from Uganda doing something not only focusing in Uganda, right? not only focusing in his country. So if we're going to capitalize on the opportunity of having to know someone, not necessarily from my country, but in the potential that is inside that person to innovate, the potential and the opportunity, because we belong to different streams, we belong to different departments, but then coming together with collaboration. So mixed culture here, I'm going to see it from the point of the opportunity to collaborate, right? So someone is coming from Uganda with a skill, or someone is coming from Ghana with another potential. Why not join together, join the forces, like Emmanuel was saying, collaborate, so that we put everything together to achieve the achievements, that the names that we saw, like Kwame Nkrumah that he was mentioning, right? I'm not sure anybody had ever achieved anything single-handedly, right? So we see the mixed culture as an opportunity to collaborate. That is what I think we should see. That this is an opportunity to harness my potential with whoever is coming from in another country. Doesn't matter, it has to be from my own country. So the mixed culture should rather be a moment of opportunity and collaboration other than division. So that's what I think. Thank you.
Mr. Emmanuel, can you please give us an example of how your connections to your home?
You give me the hardest. Okay.
It's not even hard. Okay, can you give us an example about how your connections to your home or to your home country have helped you succeed in your business or in your innovation?
Anyway, yeah, it's really. I think I look at Africa as one. It's really scary that I've done more good in other countries than my own country. So I've spent like 7 months in other countries than Uganda. I spent only 3 days there. But about connections, let me answer it from connections. The area where we are, the people who know you always need people who are going to speak about you in the rooms where you are not. And the homemade connections are really important because they will represent you. So you are in diaspora, you're doing a good job, but if you're not recognized, if someone doesn't speak what you're doing to other people, no one is going to recognize, no one is going to support. So I think the most important thing is to build the network back home, and the network I have back home, I've not only built it, but I've known how to unlock the value in that network. And that has helped me so much back home. Yeah. Lastly, they value everyone from home. Whether you have 10 cars from India, as long as you have no single house, no one knows you back home, you're a failure. So I focus on building home and building those connections home. Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Burton, the next question is that what are the primary challenges that are faced by the diaspora communities in like the countries that they're at? What are the primary challenges that they face that hinder them from starting businesses, from venturing into their innovations and all of that?
I think what I would say to that is the fact that we think we've made it. You might have mentioned it, right? You have a passport, you have a visa, you think you've made it. We think by us being in India, it's an achievement. It's one of the stupidest ideas that we have been developing so much. And I'm glad that he mentioned it also in a good way of showing that as usually mystifying the fact of being abroad. I'm sorry for anybody who has that stuff on Instagram, that we even developed that idea of on your Instagram bio, you literally have to put the flags of every country in which you've been. It really shows how much we have no value to bring. That the value that we're expecting in that country where we're going at is for us to take something, not for us to bring anything inside. So I think the biggest challenge that we face, which causes us to not start things, is thinking that we can now rest. We're in the right place. We're in heaven. We're where there is Wi-Fi, so we can now rest. I think that's the major thing which blocks us. Because when you think of it in a different way, when you think of, oh, I'm here, but this is not what I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to get better. I'm supposed to do something. I don't really see something which could block anybody from studying anything. Even here with whatever parameter that we have, we don't know the languages, the spicy food and everything. There is nothing which blocks us apart from the mind which tells us, hey, I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Ms. April, what are the gaps that exist in the current support systems for the diaspora entrepreneurs, and how can these gaps be addressed?
From my personal objective and perspectives, the gaps that we are facing in the diasporas, number one is the communication barriers. That's among the biggest challenge. Let's take an example of India. Even if India want to support us, we face challenges with the communication, either from people who are back in Africa, of how they perceive life here in India, and also we ourselves who are in India and how we perceive the life in India. So number one, there is a communication barrier. Number two, also we have things like mindset is a big thing, like what the other speakers have just said. We are facing a big challenge with the mindset, either from people who are to support us and we ourselves to be supported. We believe that we cannot do anything unless we have money. And the moment whereby we put money as the first thing, there is where we are corrupting our own selves. Because before you think of money, I remember I was reading a book from Vusi. He said, before you think money can solve your challenge, you need to think of how you can provide a service without money. Like what Emmanuel just shared. He said that we need to have a mindset about services, not money.
You know, now, when we talk about policy, my challenge with policy is, do we really need to be involved? Because, and to what extent? Because if we don't speak up, then how will people know what we want? And then my second problem with it is, how do we react to the policies? So the first thing I would say, we need to speak up. It looks like a very simple Twitter post about a bad policy, but it could change. I saw one woman was hardly beaten by a policeman in Uganda, and someone just made a Twitter thread. By the time we saw the director of the Ugandan police replying to the tweet. So use our voices better. You have a power to impact the policies, but you can only impact the policy making if you speak. So some of us, we are big cowards to speak about things that are in our own countries. Secondly, we are a generation, I don't know, instead of participating in policy making, I think we just do it the other way. And we think we are doing it great, like the Gen Z thing that happened in Kenya. It is good, but to me it's useless. Because if you burn down 100 buildings, so I had to be in Mozambique on 5th January. I cannot go. Every day I'm seeing news, people burning down what, people looting who. And we think that's the way to impact policies. But we are educated beyond that. That's why when we go back, some villagers tell us, he's educated, but again, he's the same. Because we are doing things the same way. So I think the diaspora has the best time to impact because we have seen better policies in other countries. So we have to inform. So lastly, by the words of President Yoweri Museveni, he said, one thing I hate about students who go abroad and study is instead of coming back to create impact home and change policies, they come to supervise nonsense. So when we go back home, we want to be supervisors because I've done my law from India, so I want to be national superintendent. If I've done medicine, I want to be the head of this hospital. We just want to supervise the already nonsense that is happening. We are not checking it. So I think before we think about the top, every little voice we make matters. And kudos to people like that. I think we need to learn how to tell the story of everything. We need to learn how to brand our things better, how to communicate, and with simple things, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you can be part of the policy. So it's not about the leaders, it's also about us, the followers sometimes. So it's the right time. You have been in India, my last question to you all who are sitting here, because we are discussing and people are just enjoying. You have seen the medical policy here, how the national insurance works here. Even, how Google Pay works. A very poor woman there down in the village, she doesn't have smartphone, but she has that speaker. Now, if you pay and you And that machine doesn't say, you have received it. Tora rupees. I swear you're not going to leave, even if you have 30 screenshots. But for that machine to reach her on an affordable price, someone made that policy. So for you, when you see it, what do you think? You think it is a speaker and you go? You think about the policy, then compare with your home. And ask yourself, what are the financial policies we are having? You ask yourself, you transfer 10,000 rupees in India for free, and then you transfer it in Uganda plus 500 rupee charge on your money, sending it to Sharata. You are charged, and then you have to send him withdraw. Like if he wants 10,000, you have to put 1,000 withdraw charge. That's another policy. So I think what we are seeing should inform our minds that something home should change. But what he said, if we are here, because for you make free transaction, it doesn't ignite your mind that why am I charged home? So for me, from here, I'm going to go back to ask Airtel why I put on data at night, at 5, at 12 a.m., they take my data. They say you have entered another day. Where in India, you keep your data the whole day. So I'm going to ask them because it's policies. So I think we are the right people, everyone. You see them. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for our panelists from the audience? Going once? Going twice? Okay, I will take only the 2 questions. Thank you so much. Yes, Sister Gift. I don't know if this microphone works.
Thank you. How true is the term status? Is status a reality or just a well-crafted illusion? Because we have Burton, who has a bachelor's in biomedical, I think a master's in business administration. We have Angel there with a diploma and currently pursuing her bachelor's. We have a PhD scholar, and a few of us who are currently pursuing MPH. You are all from different statuses. So, question is that term actually a reality or just a well-crafted illusion we've been living with?
I don't think there could have been a me who is a YouTuber without me being a biomedical engineer first. So status is a reality, but status is not the only thing that can make you be you. Status can be one of the things that can accelerate the success to whatever you're trying to attain. I think this is a story that I usually tell to most of my friends, like how when I came to India, my plan of coming here wasn't to go to study in India. The idea that I had in mind was I wanted to study in an English country. So I needed whatever country it would be, which would just be English. I never knew that I could end up in India. But the fact that I was in India and I found myself being an African, that could have been a point of advantage that I could use to make a video about me being an African in India. Doesn't necessarily have to be that it's a status and it's a reality and others don't have it. All of us here have it. Why none of us made videos about that? Because even I, when I started, didn't know how to make videos. Why none of us made videos about that and made money out of it? One person sees the idea and they see, oh, I can take advantage out of whatever that I have. The reality is all of us here are not the same, even in status. As you said, we have different backgrounds, we have different status. We have even different money in our pockets right now. But the only thing which makes us sit here together to speak is the fact that each of us used to their advantage whatever that they have. And that thing is the only thing which matters. I think status is a reality, but what matters the most is how you use it to your advantage.
I think I have one thing to say about it. That status thing, let me speak with that microphone because I fight with it a lot. This is what I'm going to say. It pains me a lot because every African wants a PhD. Now, when we do medicine here, before you think about changing any medical thing in your home country, you want to have a PhD in medicine. Now, one day I was talking to a principal. I asked him now, if I have a PhD, what is it going to change? It's just a status that someone is going to call me doctor. Okay, doctor so-and-so. And has it changed anything in my community? That's one demon eating us in Africa. You find someone, before he does medicine, before he practices in his village for 2 months, he wants a master's. Before he goes back home to do 1 month, he wants a PhD. Before he even goes back to greet his parent, he wants a second PhD. Before he even teaches one other person in his village on how to get a bachelor's, he wants a third PhD. And this is something that is killing us. Now, status is something, this special education status is ruining us. We think having your PhD is success to you. It's not success to us. In office, we are hiring 10 PhDs. Even me, I can say, okay, I own 10 PhDs. But me, I don't have a PhD. But at the end of the day, a PhD is good for you. It's only good for the community if your research is doing impact to the community. But if you are doing for you to be called doctor, please help us stay with your diploma. But these things of you people spending 10 years, 20 years, 35 years, Mugabe has, I don't know, 13, 15 degrees. And then those degrees are not changing anything at home. Leave your degrees, come back and hustle. If it's not changing, that's my kindness about bachelors and whatever. And I found out best people to execute are diploma people. You go and ask Parusha Vashram Hospital how many diploma people are there. They have the best nurses. I don't know how to insert cannula. I have bachelors. So you need status, I don't think. I think impact and problem solving should be your target. These things of PhD.
Have you ever think that why educated people in Africa, most of educated people in Africa are poor?
This guy.
Yes, that's my question. So my question is it that we wake up late in matter of development, or is it we consume a lot of pollution in matter of good education? Why we educated people are poor?
That's our questions. One of the problems is different policies which a certain government provides in a certain country. Those are the ones which make someone become a poor. Because when someone starts being employed in the government, his society, they think he's more rich. But when he's in there, he found a lot of things which are supposed to be paid. For instance, you can find your salary is 800 USD in the paper, but in your bank, you find 500 USD. The rest 300 USD what can I say?
In tax?
Yeah, the taxes. So are the things which make most of the people down. And the second issue is it depends on the changes of various leaders in a certain country. Let me give you an example. It might become a certain leader as or the president of the certain country. He supports government workers. Now when that president retires, the next president, he might start impeaching by start telling them all of the properties which you have, we must do the evaluations. So that are the major issues which makes a lot of people have different policies and different changes of the government leaders. Thank you.
But green pastures are only somewhere where they are watered. So you came to India, you found people watering their pastures in Peru, and they are green there. You left your dry pastures, your dry green pastures in. They are not green. Your dry yellow pastures in Zimbabwe. So you are enjoying the watered pastures. You don't want to water your pastures. So the most important thing is to take the narrative as not going back home.
What is it going to help if somebody, you can't use that knowledge that you're acquiring to help that person who is suffering back home? It's just for your status. I have to make sure I have a very good GPA. GPA is not going to help somebody back home. So we keep on we are working for ourselves, not only to change the people, but for your status. So it makes us become more poor. We are not developed because it's only individually me. So if I'm me, very developed, but the other 10 people, my neighbors, are very poor, so what will it help me? It's nothing. That's why you keep on generating poor generations. If I'm intelligent, maybe my other siblings are not really intelligent. I can't help them because I'm focused on me. I have to get this, not them. I just provide them money. Then after I'm gone, what's there for them? Nothing. So that's what I can say. And you answered now. Okay, because of time, we're just gonna have to cut it short. But basically, I would just like to not answer, but like just like to try, right? But like what Joanne was saying, that like as the educated people, we go back, but now instead of changing things, we go there and conform. Like instead of, let's say you're like a medical student, you go back home and you can see that, let's say, for example, in my country, the best hospital in my country looks like right? Like, I'm being really honest, like the beds, it's awful, it's bad, right? But like instead of me going there as a medical student, I'll just go there and I find a job there, and next thing, as long as I'm getting my salary, it's okay. And that salary is like the bare minimum, and it's not even in like, it's in ZIG, it's not even in USD, it's in like a very low currency. But now, as educated people, we're supposed to go there, and what the panelists were saying over and over again, we're supposed to go there and innovate. We're supposed to go there and see the problem, instead of just seeing the problem and just going along with it. We're supposed to see the problem and solve it. Why is this problem there? Let's start from there. Let's ask the questions and be able to actually make a change. Like what Emmanuel says, our voices has to be louder. Otherwise, we'll just be the same as everyone else, poor. But like, how are the people? Another question that we should ask ourselves as educated people who go back home and still become poor is how are the people that are rich in the same country that I'm in? How are they rich? What am I doing that is wrong that they're doing that I'm not doing? Like, we should ask the big questions and be able to answer them by ourselves, to be like, okay, this is what has to be done, and do it. Okay. Here's a question.
Thank you. My question is owing to Emmanuel's presentation. I'll give of the 4 to 6 examples he gave, I'll give 2. One is Pratap Reddy, and the other one is Julius Nyerere. Like, they made the change from the diaspora. So how is us going back home going to change the narrative, since the people who change the narrative maybe of Africa, of the healthcare of India, were in the diaspora? How will us going back home change the narrative? Isn't it actually better to stay here and maybe change the narrative from here?
I knew Sharata will always come against. My mindset is, you developing a manufacturing plant of pharmaceutical in India doesn't make sense, because we have many. Like even in Wagodia, we have Paru Pharmaceuticals. Just imagine a village like yours in Zimbabwe, Okay, Paru, yes, Paru University is in a village, Wagodia. My whole district has I don't know how many villages. We don't have any university. So how do you move what you have seen here back home? The reason for you to go back home should not be, I have my bag, since I have Ethiopian Airlines, now I have to go. There should be a motivation that is calling you back home. When you talk about that we are going back home to create wealth, because you're not going to create anything if you're a necessity entrepreneur. You are going back to create wealth. For us, from our entrepreneurship world, for you to create wealth, you should solve a problem, and the solution you are creating should be scalable. So one of the reasons why us who are educated, we are poor, is because our services are not scalable. If I'm a doctor and I want to be rich, I have to scale the patients. If you come at WHO, I'm going to tell you, we are moving from curative medicine to preventable medicine. We want to prevent. You want to create more patients, you scale them so that you become rich. The solution should be scalable. So have that mindset when you're going back home, that I'm going back home, but there is a problem that I want to solve. Maybe internet is expensive. I did IT. So can I create maybe a network, or can I drive a partnership between Geo and my local company and pull them to come and create Geo back home? So I bring free SIM cards for my people. I've seen Parusha Vashram Hospital. Can I ask them that, okay, you cannot create a hospital in DRC, but I want you to run an OPD. I start a company, I'll own it, I'll do the operations, you own 70%, you give me the background, I own 30%. Are you saying that you want the new UPI system to be done in Zimbabwe? But for you to go to the Indian Ministry of IT and Communication, it is 5,000 rupees. For someone to come from Zimbabwe, it requires two-way flight. Can you go to that office and bargain that, okay, we could do this technology? You have the number of the minister in the other country, call them, be the connection. So it's not about money, but you are the right person to connect, because you can meet the chief minister anytime. He's coming on 6th in Peru. You meet him, you tell him that, bro, I saw this manufacturing plan. Can we do it back home? Connect with another minister. You become a bridge. So I think it's not about you going. A blessing if you have ticket and you just go. Africa is very hard if you just go, brother. And it's very expensive. Leave this rent of 5,000 rupee here. In Uganda, it is 20,000, 1,000. So look at the problem back home and say, because of this problem, now I'm going. Fall in love with the problem, you will solve it. If you just go, praise God. Unless you are going to start a church, but if you are going to go and solve problem, it's very difficult. So have a problem, then go. If there is no motivation for you to go back home, stay here. Enjoy the green pasture here. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have one more question. Yes.
And my question has a title, Changing What You Know. So my question basically is to know that how can we change? I believe each and every person that is in this place is playing one significant role in this space. But the question is, how can you change the mindset? How can young adults, how can people in India, in Peru University, or even Africans themselves, or even Western people from Western regions change their mindset? And also specifically to place it on the table, how are you guys playing a significant role to change the mindset of youngsters or young adults in your present community, in your startups, in your innovation, in your businesses? How are you changing the mindsets of young people?
What matters the most is the execution. So if we don't execute, there will never be that, like the idea of change has to come from an action. So if there is no action, then saying change will never happen. So there have to be just whatever thing it is that you will do. If after coming from here, I tell myself that, from now on, I have to be a voice. I have to do something right now. Because if I don't do anything, then there will never be that change of mindset. So I don't really believe that there is some day in which it will happen. There will be change of mindset and enlightenment will come to Africa and everybody now will know things. There will never be that day. By the time of execution, that's what will happen. Like for the case of India, what we've seen, they went through hard times also. And then comes a time when they're like, okay, we can't live like this forever. We need to do something. And then they change. And that comes only through action. And as Emmanuel was saying about Parul Sevashram being in a village, I don't really think Parul Sevashram being in a village was such an easy thing for them to implement. Like, you know what? We're going in a village and that's where we're going to set up our business that will cost $500,000. Probably it's about the fear, whoever's going to put their money into that. But again, there was the other person who was like, you know what? Let me do it. So it's the action which counts the most more than the idea of expecting a change. And I personally, however, that I try to put that impact in my community, I think it's a drive which all of us should have here at least. When we think so much of what we are going to become next, it should be much more on what we are going to make others to become next. I don't think so far for now there are major things that I have done so far to the city, but my most bet comes in, I expect to bring those major changes in my family, the day I have a family. And the next thing, it's in at least whoever will be under my, in French we say tutelle, but like whoever will learn something from me has to learn something which teach them that you have to do better. So I have to try to be excellent in whatever that I'm doing. So I can't really teach everyone around me, but in whatever stuff that I am, I have to be the best. And that is the only way that I can teach others. At the end of the day, I get a wife and a woman, and children.
Okay, thank you so much. So that wraps up our panel discussion session, and we're gonna move on to our group discussion. And our topic is, why are some students successful in India and they create value here while others are not?
My question, my answer is very, very simple. It's because those who have succeeded, they have just defined the problems as opportunity, and those who have failed, they defined opportunities as problems. I think the rest are additions, but that is the clear answer. I've seen also the panels, they were talking about, let us go back and solve Africans' problems. You know what is happening? There is no shortage in policies in Africa. There is shortage of implementation. We have SDGs, right? Everyone knows about the SDGs, right? Millennium Development Goals. It's until millennium reached, but the goals are not taking us nowhere. Now we have Agenda 2063. That is basically for Africans. But what we need as Africans is to graduate from loans. That's the only thing that we need so that we can move as Africa. But coming back to the question, there is nothing like development basically within a country if there is nothing like development basically within a family. So development has something to do with a nature of the family basis. You know, I'm not good in English because I'm good in Swahili, right? But I've just also seen that I have to learn Hindi so that I can interact with these Indians, right? So we cannot force those who think that these problems are the problems and let those who think that these problems are opportunities, they are there to be. So what we have to do is, it is really night, that's why we have light, right? But for us entrepreneurs, if we are here not accidentally, right? If we are here by plan, not accidentally, it is always morning to the entrepreneurs. It is always morning. There are no problems to entrepreneurs. If you are coming from the rich family, if you are not taking your economy, your family economy to the next step, you are still coming from the poor family because you have got no advantage to your family. If you are coming from the poor family and then you are stepping up your family to the next level, even though you are not being able to appreciate it, so that's developing. Who have seen the Indian flag? It has got something in between, like there is a wheel, right? They call it Dharma Chakra. That Dharma Chakra means keep moving, even if it has got no impact that you have appreciated it, that I have moved from one point to another point. But the issue is keep moving, keep moving. So what we can do is not to fill the gap, is to narrow the gap between those who have seen the problems to be an opportunity. It's just a matter of narrowing it. In 1963s, most African countries got independence, right? But why today others are developed within Africa and others are still developing? You know, challenges when quarrels are out of Africa, the world is involved as a large. The challenge with us Africans, we still have the mindset that PLO Lumumba used to say, we term us as the children of the lesser God, no? So I'm very quiet. I want to make it very, very clear that let us define the opportunities as opportunities, not as a problems. Why are we not able to make these Indians come back to Africa and see our education system is better than their own? Because it is always strange to be in a strange land, right? When I was young, I was crying like, because I basically born in city center, so I was crying like, I want to visit my grandfather in the village areas. Why? Because the strange place is always there for you to be, like it's very attractive for you to know what is also going on over there, right? So it is not something like it is bad for us to get an opportunity, because I think this exposure is good ahead of even education sometimes. So what we need is elite, is Africans, furthermore is entrepreneurs, is how we can introduce ourselves by seeing problems as opportunities. That is the very clear answer that will make us to be differ from the rest. I have been attending so many entrepreneurs meetings. This is not the first one, but the issue is after 2 weeks, after 48 hours, even if how powerful these speeches and discussion will be, after 48 hours, after 40, we will be back in our normal state. Basically, I'm doing mental health, so I know that's the state of mental health, right? So we will be excited. Excitement will take us nowhere. Africans has got no shortage of the policies, so we have to be very clear in that there are so many African people who went to the world and went back to change Africans. If we are the one, we are lucky. We know India, we know Africa. Let us go back and make impact to change the life of our people by impacting, because the goal of us to be educated, the goal of us to be exposed is not to touch our own life, is to touch the other's life. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will just be taking one more person. Mr. Bin.
With what they have shared, it should not be taken lightly. Rather than it should be taken to at least a step. Someone said here that we have to start thinking of moving one step ahead and seeing the impact, right? Now, going directly to the question why some people are success, especially students, international students, and why other are not are not successful. I want to switch my sharing on one point. The history gives a true and a very good demonstration that everyone who ever succeed, they first determined their purpose, right? And the history, it is true demonstrating that since 1960 something before, all people who were fighting for African independence, they determined their purpose while they were young, right? If I'm to talk of Nelson Mandela, he started fighting for the independence while he was young. If I'm talking of Julius Kambarage Nyerere, he started fighting for Tanzania independence while he was young. If I'm talking of, there's someone called Nixon, he was a HIV/AIDS kid from South Africa. He started being a motive and creating impact to the society while he was on 12 years of old. if I'm talking of Lumumba from Zambia and other, Kwame Nkrumah from Ghana, they started making the impacts while they were young. The history demonstrates that Jesus Christ also, when he started doing his work, and he was even gone while he was young. Before 30 years of old, he had already done a lot of wonders in the world, which we are still reading, and we are still living those wonders in the Bible, right? So the history demonstrates a true meaning of success and the true meaning of fighters they were fighting while they were young. And with all this fight and all this dedication, they started fighting while they were young, but they had to identify their purpose first. Now the problem of us, we young women and men of this world, we are failing to identify our purpose in earlier ages. We are failing to identify, or we are failing to remember where we are coming from. The village which had sent us here in India, the place where we are coming from, parents who sent us here, how much are they fighting for us to be here in India? What is the burden which we are carrying from Africa, or what are the expectations of our countries from Africa for us to be here? At the end of the day, once we complete our studies, there's a lot of expectation of our own country, expectation of our own family, expectation of our own village, our own brothers and sisters who have sent us here, because they know that the moment when you left home, you are going to come back and bring changes at home. But the problem when we come here in India, we forget ourselves. We think that we are having another tomorrow to live. The history tells us that we are only having today, and we are not sure of the very next second. Where are we going to be, and what are we going to do next? So therefore, with that, it means we need to know that we are young. We are subjected to bring changes, and we are subjected to use the time that we have to bring the changes in the world. It is not always about the mindset, as others have already shared. It is always about where am I starting. The other problem, one entrepreneur once said that, other people, they define wealth or being rich as having money, a lot of properties. That is being rich, right? Now, the moment you start defining being rich is having a lot of wealth and money, that is poor mindset, right? And the moment you start defining the opportunities that are around, right, or the problems that are around as a gateway of you creating the services on the societies, right? What I'm trying to say is that the moment when you start defining the problems that are around you as a gateway of you creating the services in the society, that is being rich in mind, instead of thinking that it is up until when I have some kind of dollars or a certain amount of rupees on my account or whatsoever the properties, that is when I'm going to be termed as a rich. That is poorest mindset, right? So we have always to think, and we have always to define our purpose. And also, one which is very important thing, we don't need to compete each other. Another thing that keeps us stranded is the fact of trying to do what other people have already done. Now, the moment you start trying to do what other people, because I have started baking mandazi, and I'm succeeded on that area of baking mandazi, then other people also thinks that my purpose is to bake mandazi so that I can become like the other people who succeeded on that area. That will bring competition, unnecessary competition, and it is going to bring unnecessary fightings sometimes even. And at the end of the day, you will find yourself, you are living in other people's purpose instead of living on your own purpose. So I'm trying to sweeten, to demonstrate myself that we have first to think of what is my purpose, what am I supposed to do, right? And we have always to think about the demonstration of history. Wise people are those who always remembers where they are coming from. One of the challenges that we are having us as the youth of today, it is probably we don't know even who our grand ancestors, where they were actually coming from. What is my origin? The moment we forget that, it is the moment now we will start living as Indians. It is the moment that we will start fighting or running for green card or whatever the lottery, so that we can run and go to live in other countries. But if we will know where we are coming from, we will know our origin, we will always have the purpose to go and change home first. So I think that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I remember not greeting you all, I just introduced my name. So I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, especially from the visionary, Mr. Alex Beuta, the management team, and everyone who made sure this whole event happened, including those who sacrificed their finances and their time. And as we are done, of course we'll be having food, but also make sure you get time to talk with the person next to you, learn from them. Don't get carried away by the most obvious. A good example is right now I'm very calm in front of you, but I'm also a very vibrant young lady if you get time to talk and listen to each other. So I love you all and thank you for coming. For this privilege, for this honor that you have gathered your children to discuss. We know that this is just by the power of the Holy Spirit. It's not our own wisdom, not our own understanding. Thank you for the guidance throughout. Father, we seek your protection in each and everything that's going to happen after us. As you're going to have our food from your blessing, protect us, and you may give us more energy to keep on working, to keep on impacting people's lives, because we know that this is just the beginning of more and more things. We thank you, Father, and bless your name, saying amen.
We are the few among so many thousands of international students who are right now in Bolivia to be in this room. Let's make sure that becomes a thing. Let it not be just I went there for food, but let it become a thing that after here we do stuff actually. And we wanted to thank people who showed up today. Is the change going to happen, Emmanuel? So I would please invite Mr. Alex